Hello guys, this is my data overview or the data overview of Campbell High School, and it's intended for all stakeholders, and it was made on November 8th in 2016. So the objectives of this data overview, the objective of this presentation is to give all stakeholders an overview of Campbell High School's current demographics and state assessment data. And by gaining an understanding of those data trends, stakeholders can have the understanding necessary to contribute to school improvement strategies. So when we look at demographics, this is the makeup of the student population in 2015 and 2016. And what you see here is that it's virtually unchanged. There's a small decline in Black students and a small rise in white and Hispanic students, but it's very minuscule at this point in time. This is the transient rate for Campbell High School, and the transient rate, while high, so it's 29% in 2015 and 27% in 2016, you'll see that most subgroups, the transient rate stays virtually the same. When you look at the American subgroup and the Hawaiian subgroup, the numbers of students were so low in those groups that one or two students leaving affected that transient rate quite a bit. And then the multiracial subgroup is where you see a little bit of a decline. So Campbell's some takeaways from student demographic data. So first off, Campbell's student population is growing with a growth of enrollment of about 140 students from 2015 to 2016. And their students body also has small growth in the percentage of white and Hispanic students between 2015 and 2016. There's a small decline in Black students from 2015 to 2016. And most of the transient rates for subgroups remain virtually unchanged, with the exception of the multiracial transient rate, which has declined, which has also led to the decline in the transient rate of the school as a whole. So when we look at math EOCT data, so the thing about math is that the state of Georgia, the newest data that we have, the state of Georgia changed the curriculum in math. And so this data overview consists of the tests that will exist going forward, and those were new EOCTs in 2014. So they do not have a year-to-year comparison with scores in Campbell High School, because if we tried to do that, it would be comparing two tests that are different. And so when we look at coordinate algebra, and this is a trend that is typical among most of the subject areas, is that Campbell High School's did not meet rate is higher, and their meets and exceed rate is lower than the district and the state. And the district tends to be higher, have a higher percentage of students who meet and exceed than both Campbell and the state. And so this is analytical geometry, and as you can see, that trend, for the most part, holds. This is Math 3. Now, Math 3 is an interesting subject area because the state had 0% of students who actually met the exceeds level in Math 3. And as you can see, almost every student who took that EOCT at Campbell High School did not meet the standards in that. Whereas, in a small percentage, and the district is for one of the only EOCTs where the percentage is actually lower of students that meet the assessment than the state. So some takeaways from math scores. Campbell scores are below both the district and the state. There is a higher percentage of students who meet and exceed the standards within the district than within the state of Georgia. And Math 3 has a very high percentage of students who do not meet the standards at the school, district, and state level. So when you look at data, you always want to look at questions that you can ask from that data and that you can drill down into and define deeper meaning in the data. And so some questions that we can take from the math data is, does the diverse population of Campbell correlate with the lower percentage of meets and exceeds scores? With the district percentage of meets and exceeds higher than the state, are there teachers within Cobb County that we can use as a model at Campbell? And with a low percentage of meets and exceed scores at Campbell, the district, and the state on Math 3, can the state give some guidance on instructional strategies that will successfully see kids do well in Math 3? So looking at some ELA EOCT data. So when we look at the other three core subject areas, is that they have those EOCTs have virtually remained unchanged, and so they have data that correlates from year to year. And so these graphs show the year-to-year assessments from ninth grade literature and the comparisons of Campbell to Cobb and the state. And as you can see, for the most part, the trend holds where Cobb has a higher percentage of meets and exceeds than both Campbell and the state, and Campbell's percentages are lower. So this is the ninth grade lit year-to-year comparison at Campbell. What the trend, what you can see is that the Campbell scores are actually growing because this graph actually only shows Campbell's ninth grade ELA scores. And as you can see, from year to year, the percentage of students that are not meeting the standards is growing lower, while the percentage of students who are meeting and exceeding the standards on ninth grade lit are growing higher at Campbell. So this is American Lit, and as you can see again, the trend for the most part holds. There is a little bit of difference in some of the state data and the district data, but the trend for the most part holds, where Campbell is going to have lower percentage of students who meet and exceed. The district will have a higher than both Campbell and the state will fall right in the middle. And this is the American Lit comparison from year to year. And so what is interesting about this data is that you can see a little bit of drop off between 2013 and 2014, and so it would be interesting to see if that's just an anomaly or if there is something going on instructional strategies wise that led to that drop off. So some takeaways from ELA data. Campbell's scores are below both the district and the state average in both ninth grade lit and American Lit. And the scores in ninth grade lit have improved from year to year, while the scores in American Lit declined slightly from 2013 to 2014. And American Lit has a higher percentage of meets and exceeds than most other EOCTs. Most other EOCTs that you look at the data, they do not have that high a percentage of meets and exceeds the standards. So some questions to answer from the data that's presented is what led to the improved percentage of students who scored in the meets and exceeds category in ninth grade lit? Is it a sustainable improvement, and can it be applied to other ELA courses? And another question to ask is what led to the slight decline in American literature scores from 2013 to 2014, and is that a one-year anomaly or is it an instructional issue? So science EOCT data. So this is physical science, and physical science is a very interesting data when you look at it from the perspective of Campbell. The scores virtually remain unchanged from 2012 to 2013, and then they increased the percentage of students who met and exceeded the standards increased dramatically in 2014. And you can see that in this data on the sheet right here is that you had virtually unchanged from did not meet and meets, and then meets and exceeds in 2014. There were no students who did not meet, and meets exceeds became the majority of students. So when you look at biology, the trends in biology hold very similar to the rest of the trends with Campbell, where the Campbell scores, the percentage of students who meet and exceed the data are lower at Campbell than the district and the state, and the district is higher than the state. But what you also see if you look here from the year-to-year comparison is that the scores at Campbell are improving from year to year. And so when we look at some takeaways from the science data, is Campbell scores are below both the district and the state average in biology. Campbell scores in physical science trend lower than the district, but not the state. And the scores in physical science improved drastically in 2014 with over 60% meeting exceeds. Scores in biology have improved from year to year. So some questions to ask. What has led to the improved percentage of students who score in the meets and needs exceeds category in biology, and is it a sustainable improvement? And what led to that drastic increase in physical science meets and exceeds scores in 2014? Can this be attributed to this number of students who are actually taking the test? Because a lot of physical science courses are taken in middle school now, and so there may be a small percentage that drastic improvement may be because of the small percentage of students who are actually sitting for the physical science EOCT. Social Studies EOCT data. So as you look at this data from year to year, the trends very much are very similar to what you see in some of the other ones, where Campbell scores lower than the district and the state, and the district scores higher than the state. But as you can see also that Campbell scores are improving. And so their year-to-year comparison, you can see that at each year, you have an increase in students who are meeting and exceeding the U.S. History EOCT standards. When you look at economics holds definitely to the same trends for the most part, where Campbell is lower than the state and the district is higher than the state percentage of meets and exceeds. And so for the year-to-year comparison is interesting because you do see a slight decline in exceeds scores from 2013 and 2014. So some takeaways is Campbell scores are both below the district and the state average in economics and U.S. history. Scores in both U.S. history and economics peaked in 2013 with a higher percentage in the meets and exceeds category, and then they declined slightly in 2014 because it was in 2014 too. You saw a slight decline in U.S. history. And so why was there a percentage of students who were in the meets and exceeds category? Why was there a higher percentage of students who were in the meets and exceeds category in 2013? Was 2013 an anomaly, or is it the declined scores in 2014 evidence of instructional issues? And so some overall takeaways from the assessment data at Campbell is Campbell's a diverse school with demographic data that's showing a small uptick in the white and Hispanic population that actually coincides with a small decrease in the transient rate. But virtually, when you look at their demographic data, it's unchanged from 2015 to 2016. And in many subject areas, the percentage of students who are scoring in the meets and exceeds category is increasing. But some subjects did see a small decline in 2014. And so one of the questions that needs to be answered is, why is that small decline happening? And so that's something that needs to be evaluated further. And the percentage of students who scored in the meets and exceeds categories is generally lower than the district and the state averages. The district average percentage of students who are in the meets and exceeds category tends to be the highest. And so Campbell needs to use all available district resources to continue to improve instruction.